You don't get to judge me, old man. I judge you. Those were the first words that hit my ears that morning in Providence Municipal Court. And they did not come from a kid trying to act tough. They came from a police chief in a pressed uniform with shiny gold pins on his chest and a look in his eyes like the world owed him a salute. I was sitting in my chair, hands folded, looking straight ahead. I am Judge Frank Caprio. I have seen anger, tears, and lies. I have seen people break down like glass. But I had never heard a law officer speak to a judge like that, not in my courtroom. The man was 46 years old, tall, broad shoulders, hair cut sharp on the sides, a jaw set like a rock. His badge looked polished like a mirror. His belt had everything on it, radio, cuffs, even a fancy leather holster. He leaned forward like he was about to give an order, not stand before a court. Behind him, the courtroom air felt tight, like somebody had pulled the strings on a drum. Even the people in the gallery, the quiet row of everyday folks, stopped shifting in their seats. And I knew, right then, this was not going to be a normal day. If you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. The bailiff stood at attention beside me. My clerk's fingers hovered over the keyboard. And that police chief? He smiled like he had already won. But he had no idea who he was really facing, or what line he was about to cross. Case by case, I do my job the same way. I listen. I weigh the facts. I protect the dignity of this court, and I protect the people who come here with fear in their eyes. That morning, I was about to protect it all, from the very man who claimed he protected the city. The case on my docket said one thing. What happened in my courtroom was something else entirely. We were only seconds away from a shock that would freeze the room, and I was watching it happen with my own eyes. Act 1, set up. The bailiff's voice rang out, clear and firm. Case 2026 TR 41872, the City of Providence versus Malcolm Vane. I looked down at the file. Then I looked up. Good morning, I said, calm. Mr. Vane, please step forward. Malcolm Vane walked up like he was marching in a parade, not rushed, not nervous. He moved with slow pride, like the floor belonged to him. I could see the name tag on his uniform. Malcolm Vane, and under it, the word chief. He stopped at the defense table. He did not nod. He did not say, "Yes, Your Honor." He stood there like he was waiting for me to speak first so he could decide if it was worth hearing. I stayed steady. Mr. Vane, I said, I'm Judge Caprio. We're here about a traffic matter and a complaint of intimidation. Do you understand why you're here today? He gave a short laugh like I had told a joke. I'm here because somebody got their feelings hurt, he said. A few heads in the gallery lifted. Quiet gasps. Not loud, but enough. I kept my voice even. This court is not about feelings, I said. It's about facts. We will hear them. Then I turned to the other side. A man stood slowly from the front row. He was not in a suit. He wore a faded work jacket with a patch on the chest that read, Lexi's Plumbing and Heat. His boots were worn at the toes. His hands looked rough, like sandpaper. He held a cap in both hands like he didn't know where to put them. His name was Daniel Rivas, 34 years old. Mr. Rivas, I said gently, come forward. He stepped up, careful, like he was trying not to make noise. I could see it on him. He was tired, not lazy tired, working tired, the kind that settles into the bones. His job was plumbing, hard work, cold mornings, tight spaces, heavy tools. He was in court because of a small crash that turned into something bigger. A fender hit in a parking lot, a scraped bumper, a simple report. That should have been it. But then, according to this file, it became a threat. He swallowed, looking at the police chief like a man looking at a storm cloud. I asked, Mr. Rivas, tell me why you're here in your own words. Daniel took a breath. Your Honor, he said, voice low, I was leaving a job. I backed out slow. My van tapped his SUV, just a tap. I got out right away. I said I was sorry. I offered my insurance. He paused. His eyes flicked to Malcolm Vane's badge, then away. And then he told me, Daniel continued, that I didn't hit him, that it never happened, that if I wrote anything down, I'd be sorry. The gallery shifted again, like the whole room leaned forward without meaning to. I looked at Malcolm Vane. He smirked. He actually smirked. "You believe this guy?" he said. "Look at him. He's one of those poor me types." That was the first disrespect moment. I raised my hand, not fast, just firm. "Mr. Vane," I said, "you will not insult anyone in my courtroom. You will speak when it is your turn. Understood?" He rolled his eyes like a teenager. "Sure," he said, "whatever you say." I heard someone in the gallery whisper, "Wow." I could smell expensive cologne coming off him even from the bench. That told me something. Not every officer wears cologne that strong, and it wasn't cheap. His watch was heavy and bright, the kind that catches light like a little spotlight. His shoes were polished so clean they looked wet. I have learned something over the years. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. Fake power does. I looked back at Daniel. "Mr. Rivas," I said, "you said this turned into a threat. Explain." Daniel's hands tightened on his cap. "He called me later," Daniel said, "from a blocked number. He told me if I didn't forget it, he could make my van get randomly inspected every week. He said he could make my license disappear." I sat back just a little. A traffic scrape is one thing. A police chief using fear is another. I glanced at my clerk. She already had a note ready. I looked again at Malcolm Vane. He stared at me with a calm face, but his eyes were sharp, like he was measuring me, and I was measuring him right back. Act 2. Escalation. The first confrontation came quick, like a spark. I said, "Mr. Vane, do you deny there was a collision?" He shrugged. "Your Honor, I didn't feel anything," he said. "If his junk van kissed my bumper, that's not my problem." Daniel flinched at the word junk. I kept my voice steady. "A kiss can still cause damage. Do you deny you told him to not report it?" Malcolm leaned in, smiling. "I told him to relax," he said. "People like him love paperwork. Makes them feel important." That tone was the problem. Like Daniel was less than him. I nodded once. "All right." Then I said, "Let's start with evidence number 1. My clerk tapped keys. The screen in front of me lit up. A set of photos appeared. Clear, bright, time-stamped. A gray SUV with a scratch line on the rear corner, red paint transfer, and then a matching red scrape on a work van's front bumper. The photos weren't fancy. They looked like simple phone photos. I asked Daniel, "Did you take these?" "Yes, sir," he said. "Right there in the lot." Malcolm waved his hand like he was shooing a fly. "Anyone can scratch a car and take pictures," he said. "This proves nothing." I watched him. He wasn't just denying, he was disrespecting proof. I said, "Mr. Vane, your response is noted, but you will not dismiss evidence with a joke." He lifted his chin. "Then maybe I should call the mayor," he said. The gallery made a sound, like a low ooh, but held back. This was the second confrontation beginning, the authority challenge. I leaned forward slightly. "You may call whoever you want after court," I said. "In this courtroom, I call the order." He smiled wider. "You know who I am, right?" "I know exactly who you are," I said. "And that's why this matters." Then I introduced evidence number 2. "Mr. Rivas," I said, "you mentioned a call from a blocked number. How did you connect it to Chief Vane?" Daniel reached into his jacket. His hands shook just a little. He held up a printed page, then another. Call logs, times, dates. "My phone company showed the call came through a mask app," he said, "like it hides the number. I didn't know that at first." I nodded. "A mask app is a tool that can hide who is calling, like wearing a hood on the phone." Malcolm chuckled. "Cute story," he said. Daniel continued, "I work with my cousin. He fixes phones. He said sometimes the app slips, like it shows a real number for a second on the billing record." He handed the papers to the bailiff, who brought them to my bench. On the record it listed a number, not fully, but enough. The last 4 digits were clear. My clerk typed quickly. We had already subpoenaed, asked for, basic information from the carrier, and the last four digits matched a number listed under a city-issued phone assigned to Malcolm Vane. I looked up. Mr. Vane, does the city issue you a phone that ends in 7742? For the first time his smile twitched. That's not proof, he said. My office has phones. I said, then tell me how your office phone ends in the same digits as the call log that threatened a citizen. His eyes narrowed. He leaned close to the table. You're trying to embarrass me, he said. I shook my head. No, I said, you embarrassed yourself the moment you used fear like a weapon. His jaw tightened. He looked around like he wanted to see if people were buying my words. Then he did something I did not expect. He turned his head toward Daniel. Hey, Malcolm said, loud enough for everyone. Tell the judge how much you want from this. Let's just say the number. I can pay it. You want 10 grand? 20? Daniel's face went pale. That was a bribe attempt. Right in open court. The gallery broke into whispers. My bailiff stepped half a foot closer to the defense table. I said firm, Mr. Vane, stop talking, right now. He raised both hands, acting innocent. What? He said. I'm solving the problem. I took a slow breath. In my mind I was already thinking, this is bigger than traffic court. Then came the third confrontation, the direct insult and the line cross. I said, Mr. Rivas, is there more evidence? Daniel nodded, eyes glossy. Yes, Your Honor, he said. There's a video. The word video changed the air, like someone opened a window. Malcolm's posture stiffened. Video? He snapped. From where? Daniel looked down. My van has a dash camera, he said. A little camera that records out the windshield. My cousin installed it because I got robbed once. A dash camera is like a small eye on the car. It doesn't forget. My clerk loaded the file. The court monitor turned on. We saw the parking lot. We saw Daniel's van backing slowly. We saw the tap, gentle, not violent. We saw Daniel get out with his hands open, calm. We saw the SUV door swing open hard. Malcolm Vane stepped out, and even without sound, you could see his anger. Then the audio came through, his voice, clear as day. You touch my car, you touch your future, he said. Daniel's voice on the video sounded small. Sir, I'm sorry. I'll do the report. Then Malcolm's voice again, sharp like a slap. You do a report, and I'll make sure every cop in this city knows your plate. You'll be pulled over until you can't breathe. The gallery gasped out loud now. Daniel on the video said, Please, I'm just trying to work. Then Malcolm said the words that made my stomach turn. Work? Guys like you don't work. You crawl. I watched Daniel standing at the table in front of me now, hearing those words again, in front of strangers. His eyes got wet. I saw him blink hard like he was trying to push the tears back in. Malcolm Vane's face went red. That's edited, he barked. That's fake. I raised my hand. Enough, I said. This is your voice. That is your face. That is your badge. Malcolm snapped his head toward the gallery like he wanted backup. No one moved. Then he looked at me, and he crossed the last line. He pointed at Daniel and said, You're really going to take his side? This loser? He's nothing. He's trash with a toolbox. Daniel flinched like he had been hit. I felt my face change. I could feel it, the warmth in my cheeks, the tightening in my jaw. I have tried my whole life to be patient, but I will not let someone with power crush someone without it. I said, Mr. Vane, you will apologize. Now. He laughed again, louder. Apologize? He said. To him? I'd rather apologize to my shoes. The courtroom went quiet in a way that scared me. That quiet is the sound before something breaks. Then Malcolm did what no one expects in court. He reached down to his belt, his hand wrapped around his weapon. My heart did not race. It dropped, because I knew exactly what he was doing, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. Viral moment. Malcolm Vane's fingers tightened on the grip of his gun. He did not pull it all the way out at first. He just tilted it, like a warning, like he wanted everyone to see he could. He looked at me and said the nuclear quote, slow and cold. I don't answer to robes, I answer to bullets. Say one more word, and I'll show you who runs Providence. 10 seconds of silence followed. Not 5, not 3, 10. I heard nothing but the hum of the lights above us. I watched the gallery like a freeze frame, mouths open, eyes wide. A woman in the back row covered her child's ears. My clerk's hand stopped mid-air over the keys. My bailiff's body tensed like a spring. I saw his eyes lock onto that holster. He was ready to move, and I could feel my own face change. Not fear, something else, a hard kind of sadness, because a police chief was standing in my courtroom, using a gun to try to control a judge. Then the silence broke like a window shattering. People shouted, a chair scraped, someone yelled, "Oh my God!" And I lifted my hand, palm down, not to surrender, but to command calm, because the next part had to be done right. Act 3, The Reckoning. I looked straight at Malcolm Vane. "Chief Vane," I said, low and steady, "take your hand off that weapon." He stared at me like he couldn't believe I said it. "Chief Vane," I said again, "you are standing in a court of law. You do not bring fear into this room." His lips curled. "You think you can talk to me like that?" he said. I nodded. "Yes, I can, and I will." I could see his chest rising fast, like a bull getting ready to charge. I spoke carefully but strong. "Malcolm Vane," I said, using his full name, "you came into my courtroom wearing the uniform of trust. That uniform is not a costume. It is a promise." He scoffed. I continued. "You told Mr. Rivas on video, 'You touch my car, you touch your future.' You said you would make him suffer with stops and inspections." I leaned forward more. "Do you hear yourself, Malcolm Vane? That's not protection. That's bullying." He opened his mouth, but I did not let him take control. "You called him trash," I said. "You said he crawls." Then I repeated his bribe line back to him. "You said in open court you want 10 grand, 20. I paused. "Malcolm Vane, do you understand what that looks like to the people in this room? To a kid watching? To a worker like Mr. Rivas, who wakes up before sunrise and crawls under pipes so families can have warm water?" Daniel looked down, shoulders shaking. Quiet tears now. I turned my eyes to Daniel for a moment, then back to Malcolm. "You have a salary," I said. "You have a title, you have a badge, you have a weapon." My voice rose just a little, and still you wanted more power. You wanted the power to erase a crash, the power to erase a report, the power to erase a man's voice. I pointed gently toward the dash cam screen. "That camera did not care who you are," I said. "It just recorded the truth." I took a breath. "Now listen to me," I said. "Respect is not something you take at gunpoint. Respect is something you earn by how you treat people who can't fight back." I said his name again, clear. "Malcolm Vane, you are not above this court. You are not above the law, and you are not above decency." He was shaking now, not with fear, with rage. He spat. "This is a circus." I held my gaze. "No," I said. "This is accountability. Accountability means you answer for what you do." I asked hard questions one by one, slow enough to land. Why didn't you just exchange insurance like everyone else? Why did you threaten a working man? Why did you try to buy your way out? And why, Malcolm Vane, why did you reach for a gun in front of a judge? He didn't answer, because there is no good answer, only excuses, and I don't sentence excuses, I sentence actions. AC4, sentencing. I straightened the papers in front of me. The room was still loud inside, but quiet outside. "Chief Vane," I said, "I'm going to speak clearly, and you will listen." He opened his mouth. I raised my hand. "Not one word," I said. "You had plenty." I began in stages, so everyone could understand what was happening. "First," I said, "for the traffic violation and property damage, you will pay a financial penalty of $2,150. He blinked like that number was nothing to him. I continued. "That covers a $750 court fine, $600 in restitution for the repair estimate on Mr. Rivas's van bumper, $400 for the paint transfer work on your SUV, as shown in the photos, and $1,100 for costs tied to the investigation and subpoenas. He scoffed again. Second, I said, your license will be suspended for 120 days. His eyes widened. That's, he started. I cut him off. During those 120 days, I said, you may drive only to medical appointments and to any court-ordered service. No personal trips, no special treatment. If you violate that, you will face a longer suspension. I turned a page. Third, I said, you will complete 180 hours of community service. He laughed like it was impossible. I said, not just any service. Service tied to what you did. I looked at him. Every Saturday for 12 weeks, I said, you will report to the Providence Community Repair Clinic on Doyle Street. This is a court-approved location, not a private address, for a 5-hour shift. I explained it simple. That clinic helps low-income families fix small home problems, leaky sinks, broken heaters, loose steps. You will help with intake, moving supplies, and cleaning. You will not wear your uniform. You will wear plain clothes. You will take directions from the supervisor. I paused. You will also do 3 weekday evening shifts, 4 hours each, at the Road Safety Youth Program at Harborview Middle School. A few people in the gallery nodded. They liked that. I continued. You will speak to students for 10 minutes at each visit, not as a hero, as a warning. Then I added public accountability. Fourth, I said, you will write a handwritten apology to Mr. Rivas. 2 full pages, no typed words, no shortcuts. I looked at Daniel. And you will hand it to him in this courtroom, I said, at your review hearing. Then I turned back to Malcolm. Fifth, I said, you will record a short court-approved PSA, a public service announcement. That means a short video message. I explained it simple. You will say, no one is above the law. If you make a mistake, you own it. If you wear a badge, you must be humble. I watched him swallow, but I wasn't done. I said, now we address what you did in this courtroom. I looked straight at him. Chief Vane, I said, you reached for a weapon in a courtroom. That is contempt. Contempt means disrespect to the court, like spitting on the rules. I nodded to my bailiff. Bailiff, I said, step in. My bailiff moved fast, smooth, trained. He came around the table. Another officer assigned to court security moved too. Malcolm's eyes flashed. You can't, he said. My bailiff grabbed Malcolm's wrist and turned him away from the gun. The other officer secured the holster. The click of handcuffs sounded loud in the quiet, metal on metal. The gallery gasped again, but this time it was a different kind of gasp, the kind that says, finally. I said, you are remanded into custody for 7 days. Remanded means held, not free to leave. Malcolm jerked against the cuffs. I stayed calm. After 7 days, I said, you will return to this court on March 3, 2026, at 9 a.m. for a review hearing. I leaned forward. At that hearing, I said, I want proof of your first community service shift scheduled. I want proof you started the apology letter. And I want confirmation your weapon privileges have been reviewed by the proper agency. He glared like he wanted to burn holes in me. I looked right back. Malcolm Vane, I said, you tried to use a gun to control a court. Today, the court controls you. Act 5, Aftermath, Option A, Transformation Arc. 3 months later, Malcolm Vane stood in front of me again. Same man, but not the same face. His hair was not as perfect. His uniform was gone. He wore plain pants and a simple button shirt. No gold pins, no shining watch. He held a folder with both hands like it was heavy. I looked at him. I looked at the papers. He had proof of 180 hours completed. Signed logs, supervisor notes, even photos of him hauling boxes and mopping floors. One note said, showed up early, took feedback, kept quiet, worked hard. I looked at Daniel Rivas. Daniel came back too. This time he stood straighter. He had a cleaner jacket. His eyes still held hurt, but they also held strength. Malcolm's voice was smaller. Your Honor, he said, I wrote the apology. He handed it to the bailiff. The bailiff brought it to Daniel. Daniel read it, slowly. I watched Daniel's face change, not into joy, but into relief. Malcolm cleared his throat. I was wrong, he said. I used my job like a weapon. I scared a man who was just working. I can't undo that, but I can stop being that person. He looked at Daniel. I'm sorry, he said, not because I got caught, because I finally see what I did. I sat back and let the moment breathe. Sometimes a sentence is not just punishment. Sometimes it is a mirror, and sometimes a person finally looks. Final scene plus moral. After court ended, I sat alone for a moment in Providence Municipal Court. The benches were empty, the noise was gone, but the lesson stayed. I thought about Daniel Rivas, who came in scared, holding his cap like it was the only safe thing he owned. I thought about Malcolm Vane, who came in proud, holding power like it was a toy. The law is not a trophy for the strong, it is a shield for the weak. If you wear a badge, you should be the first to show respect. If you stand in front of a judge, you should remember, nobody's title is bigger than the truth. My final thought was simple. Justice is not loud, it is steady, and dignity belongs to everyone.